Good morning, early afternoon, everybody. All right. I think I am set up. All right. All right. It is Sunday, October 13th. Yesterday morning, I officially began drawing the latest chapter of DvsM 2001. So page 1. I've got a good start. I don't know. I mean, I was about to say, I don't know when I'll be finished. Sometime before next Saturday morning, which is when I'll be starting page 2, because that's how it works. I give myself a week per page. The only exception to the page a week routine is if I'm doing a 2-page spread, which I treat as one piece because I'm drawing it as a 2-page spread. In those instances, obviously I have 2 weeks because the math is the same. So that allows me to plan out the drawing of the entire book and ballpark when I will be done drawing the book. I'm not getting into that yet. The only thing I'll say at this point is I have planned this out to be done with it next year and have it out, available to purchase and printed before the very end of next year. It will be close to the end of next year. I'm not going to get into dates yet because too much can happen. It's not like I'm being, mysterious about it. You never know. You might lose a week here or there because of things. You might be ahead. The printer might be behind. I might decide it needs a bunch of tweaks and edits after I see the proof. Like, that's why it's like I don't want to get into when, but I can tell you just based on the window I'm shooting for, it will be Q4 2025. It will be holidays, basically 2025, somewhere in there. I am highly motivated to get it out before New Year's of, January 1, 2026. Like that, I'm trying to be ahead of that. That's the only thing I'll say at this point, in terms of when it comes out. What else would I like to say about it? Like I said, good start, I think, to page 1. It's nice to be drawing again. Feels good to be drawing again, especially after months and months and months of writing and planning and page layout and research and collecting reference materials and shooting reference photos and all of that. Like, this really is, I wouldn't say it's easy, the drawing part, and I wouldn't say it's fun, but it's probably easiest and most fun. I mean, it's all like work, it's all effort, so it's hard to say like it's a blast and it's no problem. It's like falling off a log or what. It's not. It's drawing is hard, and especially if you're kind of particular about what you're going for and you want it to turn out well, and you have a picture in your head you're trying to get close to. Drawing is hard, and anything that's difficult is a kind of fun, but it's not fun like, watching Andor. It's not that kind of fun. It's like it's an intentional process with a lot of concentration. So that said, I do enjoy drawing, and it's easier, I think. It's a relief after all the work I have been doing, like I said, writing, page planning, research, building SketchUp models, photographing people who are going to be stand-ins, like all that kind of stuff where it's very technical, very specific, and it's the only thing you can be doing when you're doing it. Where with drawing, I can listen to music all day. I can listen to podcasts all day. Like it's a little more relaxed. It's a little more, it's not such an isolating, draining experience. It can be exhausting because again, it's just work all day. I mean, it's a job. It's not paid very well, but it is a job. And so what I would like to do, I don't know how successful I'll be. It always is a varying success. This will be interesting. I'm not making any predictions, but in the past 3 books, the first, it seems like I'd have to go back and check, but it felt like the first 10 or 15 weeks, i.e. the first 10 or 15 pages, feel pretty good. It's like the first part of the marathon where like you feel good, your energy is good. I've never run a marathon, by the way. I'm just guessing. You feel okay. You feel good. It's like, I've got this. For me, in terms of drawing, it's like that, those first, whatever that is, 3 or 4 months, I feel pretty good. And then the fatigue starts to set in. And it's not, again, the drawing is sort of fun. The drawing is sort of easy compared to all the rest of the process. But it's that job aspect. It's the fact that I do have a full-time job, a 40-hour-a-week job. And I do that. And then around that, on weekends and evenings, I fit in what's effectively another full-time job of drawing these books. So that's what starts to wear. It's not so much the drawing. If it was all I was doing, like if my full-time job was just drawing DvsM, I'd be happy as a clam. The problem is that there is no room for, not no room, there's little room for diversion and letting off steam and relaxing and taking days off. Like that's not really a thing. Like I might be able to skip a day drawing here and there, but that page a week, like that always comes round. And so you start to feel it, like I'll feel it right away because I'm starting this just prior to holidays. I draw my own holiday card every year, so I got to squeeze that in around day job and drawing comic. There's like holidays to attend, there's like family stuff, there's, I mean, there's just things that you're going to have to work around, and that adds more pressure to the time you do have to work on the comic. Like you have to get a lot more done because it was Christmas or it was whatever, or you were sick, like you had a headache one day and like the drawing wasn't going to happen or whatever, like that's where it gets tough. I think you can do almost anything for a few months, but once you do it for 4 months, for 6 months, for 9 months, like now you're getting into a year of drawing. That's when you'll hear me, if history be our guide, you'll hear me start to talk about fantasizing about just like doing nothing and fantasizing about just watching movies or playing video games all day or just, sleeping in or whatever. Like that's where that stuff really starts to kick in the farther I get into the process. That's just me projecting ahead. Right now, I feel good. Yesterday, when I started drawing, felt good, felt fun, was enjoying how it was coming together. It was nice to finally see more or less what this book is going to look like, which is a weird thing to say, but there's in a way, there's 3 versions of the book when you're doing a comic. There's, for me at least, there's the picture in your head of what you'd like it to look like. There's where so that's like here, okay? There's your skill level plus what you can actually execute in a week with all those constraints of day job and other things and having to sleep and whatever, which means the result is going to be somewhere around here, okay, usually. In your head, like this is, you know what you want it to look like, you know what it will probably look like, but the reality of what it will look like, you won't know until you start drawing. And it's somewhere around this, okay? And that's always, and maybe for people who don't draw, that's a strange thing. I don't know what the analogy would be. You actually sometimes don't know what your final thing is going to look like until it's a final thing. And then you're like, okay, well, that's what this is now. What I have noticed, it is early to say this. Page one, not even done. But I feel like this one is going to be not only, I think everyone is a visual step up, which makes sense. Like, you're getting older and in theory more experienced and more skillful. So each book should be better than the last, unless you're cutting corners somehow. I think it will be a noticeable step up from previous. And I can't credit so much my skill level, because I don't know if my skill level has changed meaningfully. What I will credit, if it does end up looking noticeably better, I would have to credit leveling up my taste through spending this past year or so really reading a lot of books with art that I love. And it's not intentional. It's not like me setting out to say, like, I'm going to draw it to look like whatever, The Climber, or like, you know, how Nestor Redondo would draw it or whatever. But I think it very organically, looking at some of those things, created, or, you know, at the Mountains of Madness or whatever, it recalibrates your idea of what looks good to a higher level, and you start aiming for something that is closer to that level. I think this will be the Rick Rubin mention of the stream. He talks about leveling up your taste. He talks about this notion of, like, let's say you wanted to be a painter, okay? Imagine taking a year off from everything and just spending it at museums and reading books and looking at the greatest and most interesting and most varied paintings the world has to offer. How much better of a painter you would be at the end of that process, even though you hadn't been painting. Because the notion would be you've leveled up your taste, you've leveled up your ability to recognize what's good and bad, and you've become more sophisticated as a result. You have a better nose for what looks good or is good, and as a result, like, you can only benefit from that as an artist yourself. Like, your work will only be better because of that. I think that I would like to think I did a mini version of that in this past year or 18 months or whatever it's been since I finally decided I was done with DvsM 1979. I've spent a lot of time not only really working hard on this script to get it where I wanted it to be, but also just spending a lot of time with other people's art and thinking about it and looking at it and thinking about, like, which direction do I want to grow with mine. So I think it will pay off. Again, it's early to be saying that, but like halfway through page 1 or something. But I'm enjoying flexing in ways that I haven't wanted to, or haven't chosen to, or didn't even really have the option to in past DvsMs. I think the fact that this one is very outdoorsy, where all the other DvsMs are very inside, even 97 that has a whole outdoor battle, it's kind of desert, and you're mostly focused on the people in it. It's like you see a little bit of like mountains in the background and stuff, but it's not, you're not getting a sense of like the environment. I do think of the forest in this one as a character. So I'm going to be looking for ways in every panel to insert the forest as present. I never want you to forget like where you are and like the role, what that plays and its significance. So that allows me a lot of creative opportunities. And already I'm having fun with that. Already I'm having fun with like, if I put a tree here, it's using trees almost as design elements. It's using trees almost as frames. It's using trees as like ways to balance a panel or something. You know, it's just, I think that'll be fun. I like already I'm having fun with it, and I think it will be fun. And it's allowing me to kind of do things that you can't do when, for example, in 79, you're in what's some kind of a research facility. Like you can say things with that. There are definitely things you can seed in the background that give the reader a vibe. But I think when you're freed up and you're outside and it's like, I'm gonna put rocks or cliffs or mountains or trees wherever I want here, like it really allows you to play with the feel of a panel in a way that I'm excited about. Okay. I don't know if any of that makes sense, but that's where my head's at. Let's see here. Oh yeah, Jeremy. I tried to go a little later to not counter program Jeremy. I've been really bad missing early streams. Really, really bad. And it's only, I'm reluctant to get online early in the morning. Jeremy's stream, there's a bunch, Christopher Runciman, like there's a bunch of people who generally stream early, and I've just not been around. I feel bad because I really like those guys, and I watch the uploads, but I think I'd like to be more present. Hello, Red. I can't imagine taking time off from creating on purpose. No, and I found in my experience, and this is a lot of the creatives I know are like this. Like we'll all say things like, I'm taking 6 months off. I'm just going to relax. And about 3 or 4 weeks in, you're like thinking about your next project. Like it just doesn't, there's a natural, it's funny. And it will always, to me, worrying about like, even when I'm feeling complete, like once I put a comic out and I feel completely creatively fulfilled at that moment, and I have no interest or desire in starting a new project, I've never had anxiety about like, what if it doesn't come back? To me, that's like, what if I never poop again? Like, of course it will come back. Like there will be another project that comes like, you know, looming, whether you like it or not. Like it's this most effortless, I don't even have to hunt for it. It will come and knock on the door and say, here's your idea. Here's the thing that will get you excited and thinking about it. Like, no, it's always, it's just the way I'm configured, I guess. Let's see here. Let's see here. I'm scanning. People greeting each other. What are we talking about today? Starting drawing DvsM 2001. That's number 1. Number 2 is Jim Lujan, who just finished his animated feature, The Full Fungus, is going to hop in. And I met Maynard James Keenan, the frontman of Tool, at a show recently, and completely embarrassed. I'm coming out of replaying it at like the embarrassment. I embarrassed myself. I totally fangirled, or whatever the equivalent would be. I'll tell you that story. Those are the highlights. That's the preview of today. Let's see, funny spelling. Yes. Let's see. We were just talking about you. Oh, cool. I'm gonna watch your show. I'm probably gonna play it while I'm drawing this afternoon, Jeremy. So Let's see here. Ooh, well said. Well said. Let's see here. Fangirl is out. Okay, I'm not going to say fangirl anymore. Dylan says. Okay. Let's see. Should I bring Jim on, or should I tell meeting the Tool frontman story, or should I bring Jim on and let him mock me for being starstruck by? I think I'll bring Jim in. We'll start with that, and then we'll talk about the full fungus. Good. It's a BYOP today. Let's see here. Mr. Lujan.
Poop.
How you doing, buddy?
Good. I'll make my appearance short, so you can have the
okay.
to tell your Maynard story. But yes. I get it, Gary. Leanne and I 2 weeks ago saw one of my heroes in person at a park near Santa Barbara. We saw Martin Gore from Depeche Mode.
Wow, that's big for you, especially, right?
Yeah, we were like 15 feet from him, and there was only like 5 people in this little park, and we let him be. If I see a celebrity in public, they're like a deer. You just let them be. Don't bother.
Don't make eye contact. I like or a stray cat. I was so. Do you want to hear that? I need your like. Okay. I got to tell somebody this directly, right?
All right, I'll hear it.
Should we do it now, or do you want to talk about full fungus first?
No, we'll talk about full fungus afterwards, because I'll be emotionally drained afterwards.
So I went to there's a venue here in Phoenix, Crescent Ballroom. It's my favorite live venue by far. I'm a small venue guy. I don't care like for example, who was my number one when we did albums? Was it Beck? I don't remember. Or was it Radiohead? It was Kid A, probably. I think it was probably Kid A, Radiohead. If Radiohead came to town and I got free tickets, but it was an arena show, I probably wouldn't go. That's like how like biased I am towards small venues. I want to go to small shows. Okay, like that's I want to be
thinking.
What look, I know I've told people that I've had this conversation before. For years I've had this and they're like, "What do you like?" Some I would make an exception, like the Rolling Stones. I guess I would see in an arena. Like, first of all, you have no other choice. But second, like, it's kind of an arena show. But the bands I tend to like are smaller, quieter, coffee housey, hipster bullshit. So like in a big arena, like I don't want to see Beck in an arena. Like that sounds ridiculous to me. Like I want to see.
Yeah, and we did see him.
Did you? How was it? Did you like it?
We saw him. I've seen him like twice in an arena, and then once at the Hollywood Bowl. And the 2 arena shows I just didn't like, but it was mostly because of the set list.
Yeah.
And the Hollywood Bowl one is one of the best shows. It was with an orchestra, so he got really weird. He did really deep cuts. You know what I mean? He didn't like the other shows were just the hits. That's what bugs me is when you see a band and it's only the hits.
Yeah. No, same. Like and well, and also this it's getting a little off track, but one of my pet peeves is if they play it and it sounds exactly like the album.
Yeah.
Like I could do that at home. I don't like I want to hear something with a little spark, a little alive, something that's like, do something with it, but anyway, I think because that was one of the most disappointing shows I ever went to was Arcade Fire, where I might as well just listen to it on headphones. It was exactly the same. And there was no, which I'll be coming back to this, there was no between song patter at all. There was nothing. It like they basically just one after another went through what was effectively the album. It sounded exactly like the album. They seemed like they hated even being there. They were done. Thanks very much, everybody, and left. Like that was that. It was this clinical weird. Like I remember thinking like I could have gone my whole life without seeing that show. Anyway, so Crescent Ballroom is to me like about the right size, which I don't know how. I'm not good at square footage. I would say picture a normal sized house, like a normal sized house. If you completely gutted it it's about that big.
Do you know how many it seats?
Not really.
That's usually easier.
I'd be shocked if there were 1,000. It's probably a few hundred.
All right.
You know, like, and that's about it's probably not even as big as a lot of high school like gymnasiums, like in terms of seating.
Mhm.
You know, it's probably like half the size of that, something like that. Anyway, Mary and I went and saw Blonde Redhead, for people who, I don't know, whoever knows Blonde Redhead. Which also is kind of funny because they first landed in the 90s. I discovered them in the early 2000s. I was huge into them at the time. I haven't listened to them in years, but because I had this connection, I was like, oh, they're coming to town and they're at Crescent, my favorite venue. I'm going to go. The show was amazing, like really, really good, really, really fun. But before the show, so the opener comes out. Forgive me, opener. I don't even remember who it was. It was somebody I'd never heard of before. They were very good. But anyway, between the opener and Blonde Redhead, I wanted to scout out the merch booth. So I told Mary, like, do you want to, we were sitting in this area, like these bleachers in the back. I was like, do you want to kind of hold the fort here while I go? Because there's like, I want to see what vinyls they have. I want to see what t-shirts they have, that kind of thing. Sure. So I go over there. I'm standing in line. There's this guy directly in front of me in line. There is something, it's one of those situations where there was something about even the back of his head where I was like, you know, there's something familiar about this person. And I'm looking at him and he's talking to this guy next to me, this huge guy, like this monster of a guy next to him, which I eventually put together as like, oh, it's clearly like his bodyguard or something. But anyway, he would, you know, like, so if I'm the guy in front of me, it's like this. When he would turn to talk to his bodyguard, like I could see a little bit of his profile. And again, I was like, I really looks like Maynard James Keenan, the frontman for Tool and Perfect Circle. And, you know, he's like a wine guy now. He has a winery up in northern central Arizona. But I wasn't 100%. And I thought the last thing this guy wants, if he's not Maynard, is for me to go like, hey, are you Maynard James Keenan? You know, like that just felt awkward and stupid.
You Tool?
Yeah, are you right? And like, oh, just because he's a bald guy with glasses, like, you know, it's like you must get this all the time because you're bald. You know, like I just didn't want to do that. So I pull out my phone behind him and I'm like loading up Google image searching. And I'm like looking because the guy, when he's turning to talk, I see he's got like a mole right here. So I'm pulling up a picture of Maynard. You have like a mole, right?
Imagine the people behind you going.
So I'm looking, I'm like pulling, you know, expanding the image, like really looking at his face and looking, trying to be very cool about it.
Did you hold it next to him? Turn around, look at that, go like this. Okay.
I'm just like, and then, so then like it's like there was a mole in the same position. I was like, ooh, this guy's kind of short. He's even shorter than me. Now I wouldn't call myself
Gary's
short.
tiny. Gary's like Prince.
Well, see, I didn't know that. I'm 5'8", okay? And to me, that's like low normal, you know? He's even shorter than me. So I'm thinking like, no, wait, Maynard's shorter than me, right? So like I'm Googling how tall is Maynard James Keenan? And it comes up 5'7", shorter than me. Now, I think he's inflating. I think he's more like 5'6", but whatever, 5'6.5". But okay, 5'7", sure. You know, like I'll allow it. I am actually 5'8", by the way. Okay, so anyway,
it's by the way, it's just weird that you're looking up his mole and his height on the internet right behind him.
Right behind. Oh, every part of this is weird and stupid. Okay, so then I'm looking at that. Okay. So, and meanwhile, the line is getting closer and closer to the front. And I realize like my window to say something to him is closing because once he buys his shit, like he's going to leave. And like, that's like, this is the perfect, I'm standing right behind him. So if I'm going to say like, hey, like, I don't want to bother you, but I'm a big fan, like whatever, like, it's like, now's the time. And it's like the clock is like the sand's rolling out of the hourglass while I'm doing my forensic image search, on my phone directly behind him. So finally I was like, all right, he's a short guy. He's got this mole. What else? I'm looking at this guy in front of me. I can see tattoos coming out of his short sleeve t-shirt. And so like I Google like Maynard James Keenan tattoos. And I'm like looking, and like none of those were useful. Like I couldn't see anything. It's like, fuck it. I'm sure this is him. This has got to be him. Like it looks so much like him. And it makes sense. This guy's probably a bodyguard, this huge guy he's with. And I vaguely remember some kind of relationship between Blonde Redhead and Tool. Like there was like maybe Blonde Redhead opened for Tool for a while or something like that. There was something where I was like, it makes sense. Arizona, he's a local. Maybe he would show up to the show.
Mm-hmm.
Highly confident, not 100%, 95% confident. This is in fact Maynard James Keenan, the frontman for Tool. Now, he's buying his shit. And I'm just coming to this conclusion, like this is not absolute, but a high probability you're going to lose your chance if you don't say something. If you want to talk to this guy, like you need to do it now, because this is going to be an incredibly lame story if for the rest of your life you're saying like, Maynard James Keenan was in front of me at line at a show. Like that's not a good story. That's not a story even worth telling. So before I was ready, before I had rehearsed anything, I just realized like because he's buying his shit. He's buying albums. Okay. And I just realized like, it's now or never. It's now or never. And I'm also trying to be careful because I don't want to be like, everybody, look it. It's
right.
Yeah. And like have this like mob, like it's not his show. Like, and I'm trying to be respectful to like, I want to kind of discreetly go like, like, hey, but I want to say something to him. I don't want to get a picture. I don't want an autograph. I just want to say something to him. So I finally he buys his things. He turns to leave. And so he's like turning toward me to walk off. And I kind of just a little, don't get in his way, but I just kind of, do this kind of thing. And this is where it all fell apart. This is where I should have rehearsed, like, what do you say to a celebrity that you really are excited to meet? And that's the problem here. I've met celebrities in the past. I've never been starstruck.
Jodi Arias?
I didn't actually get to meet Jodi Arias.
Okay.
But I've never been starstruck. I've met celebrities. It's like, oh, I know who that is. And I've been very cool. Like or like you kind of like, I'm just going to leave them be, and even I could list, it doesn't matter. I've met a bunch of other celebrities, but there were people that didn't mean anything to me. So I didn't, like I was fine. Tool was a big part of my young, angry post-adolescence where I was going through, I had just gone up to college. I was going through recovering from a bad breakup. I was coming out of the grunge thing, and Tool was like perfectly placed to like usher me out of like grunge era through nasty breakup into early adulthood, where I was totally nuts about it. And I was listening to that album that I had there, so the Enema or whatever, over and over and over and over. Like it was so big to me. It was so huge to me. This was like the biggest celebrity I've ever met in my life. And all this is like stirring in my head, and the fact that the window is closing. So I get in a little, not in his way. I don't want to say it like that, but I kind of just like to make it clear, like I'm going to talk to him. And I say something to the effect of, I was total adrenaline dump. So I can't commit to the exact wording, but it was something like, hey, I don't want to cause a scene or anything. I don't want to draw a bunch of attention, but I'm a huge fan of yours. And oh my God, your music was so important to me, especially in a time in my life when I really needed it. And I don't know what I was saying. It turned into this like stream of words. He was frozen and looking at me as like, is this guy actually, is he a fan, or is this my someday murderer? Like I could tell he was totally overwhelmed by this gushing. And then finally, because I could tell I was floundering and I needed to like wind this down because the body man is getting close and like he's got his stuff and he probably wants to get out of there. And the longer I'm talking to him, other people are going to notice like, hey, that's fucking Maynard, and they're going to descend on him. I got to wind this down. I got to wrap up the best man speech. So I say like, and I love you. And no. So he looks at me and he blinks and he's like, that's really nice, man. And he like splits, just totally splits, just like that, gets the fuck out of there. Understandably. So as you can imagine, like I like just go and buy my stuff.
And you forgot to mention the huge pee stain.
And then I might have dribbled some urine on his shoes. I buy a Blonde Redhead record. I go back to where Mary is. She can tell as I'm walking up, my face is crazy. She's like, what's going on? And I said, I just met Maynard James Keenan in line. He was ahead of me, in front of me in line at the merch line. And like, I just met him. I just talked to him. And she's like, what did you say? And I was like, I don't know. I think I told him I loved him. She was just, what? Like, it's just, and I've been replaying this basically ever since for the week since.
And that's why Maynard said, that's why I hate small venues.
Right. Why isn't there a VIP box in this fucking dump?
These weirdos.
Yeah. Wow. So on a scale of 1 to 10, now Mary, of course, she's my girlfriend. She's going to try and talk me off the ledge. She's like, sure he has a version of that twice a week. Like, you know, like, I mean, he's not going to be thinking for the rest of his life about this weird encounter he had in the merch line at Blonde Redhead with Gary Hodges. On a scale of 1 to 10, in terms of cringe, where am I? If 10 is full humiliating yourself and vomiting, and 1 is ignoring like you did Depeche Mode guy, where am I on that scale?
Like, it started out as a 6, like a low 6. And then that last comment, you just jumped right, you swung right through the window, broken glass, into an 8. You just rolled into an 8, and you were like, and then all the judges held their cards up and said,
like gymnastics, like Olympic gymnastics, like boom, and like
yeah, it was an 8. It was an 8. Wow, you started slow and you ended strong.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Good job.
That was my feeling.
I don't know. I mean, it depends on the timing of how long you waited to say I love you, because if it's part of a sentence, hey man, your music's great, I love you, man, it's like, that's okay. But if it's like there's a silence and your lips are quivering,
the pause obviously felt longer in my nutty head, like panicking head, but in real life, in real time, it was probably like a second. You know, it was like this stream of thoughts, and then a breath, and then I love you. You know.
Yeah. I love you.
So anyway.
You also mentioned something that's true. Yes. He hears that multiple times a week, in a lot worse, a lot harsher.
Jeremy makes a good point here. Does this adjust your score from 8 at all? I didn't hug him. I didn't like shake his hand with both hands. You know, I didn't do
anything. Google the back of his head.
I did a lot of Googling, and like I said, like forensic physical characteristic comparing, like looking at this guy in front of me, making sure, is he a bald hipster with heavy, thick glasses, or is he Maynard James Keenan?
What if it was Moby?
See, this is the kind of thing. Like, I just recognize it's like, this is somebody. I know this when I was looking at the back of his head. This is somebody I know. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to be sure, you know, I'm not just talking to the old guy at the show. It could have, this is actually somebody.
It could have been, what's the guy? I don't remember his name. It would be a really funny joke. The guy from Star Search, that one Star Search, he's bald. Doherty or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it could have been him.
It could have been him.
There's a lot of guys. It could have been
Patrick Stewart.
It could have been Jeff Bezos.
Who knows?
Yes. And if your eyes were really messed up, it could have been, you know, CeeLo Green, you know. So you don't know.
You don't know. You need to be sure before you go up. I mean, you know, you don't want to be that celebrity story where it was, who's the guy who plays young Patrick Stewart in the X-Men movies? James.
I know you're talking about Marsden, not Marsden. Yeah, I know you're talking about. He's really, is it James?
Guy.
Yes.
McAvoy.
Yes. Okay.
So, like, yeah, you don't want to be, this in James McAvoy's next story on, Jimmy Fallon, where I was like, I was at the show, I'm really into Blonde Redhead, and this guy taps my shoulder behind me in line and says, like, you're Maynard James Keenan. Oh my God, your music is amazing, and it was such a big part of my life, and I love you. That's, I don't want to be a part of it.
Ironically, where Maynard would be the safest place for him to be would be a Taylor Swift concert.
Yeah, no one would recognize
no
him.
one.
No one. He could finally capture his life before fame.
And just another dad waiting for their daughter.
Just another dad. Totally. Yeah. Like they would just assume like, oh, you brought your 14-year-old.
Yeah.
That's my story. Now,
I love You Got Me, I have to admit.
I think to me, we were driving home afterward. I was like, at least I got a story out of it. And
so
she was like, the I love you is big. And I was like, it's the important key. The keys to the story are the phone image searching and the I love you. Like those are, without those, it's not really a story.
Little advice when you meet a celebrity.
Okay. Yeah.
Is I know everyone thinks this is my moment. This is my moment. I have them. And I want to give them, tell them and give them and,
right.
But you're right. They hear that a lot. And you sometimes just have to let it go and just enjoy. Yeah. I know you want to pet the wild deer.
Yeah.
But sometimes you can't. Now, if the wild deer comes up to you and there's an interaction, then that's different.
Right.
Or if you're at a P. Diddy party.
That's different too. Well, this is why I at least had the wherewithal to I'm not going to ask for a picture. I'm not going to ask for that's because I reckon that's if they offer, if he had said hey, you want to get a picture or something, I'd be absolutely 100%. But I'm very mindful of the fact that even at the depths of that psychosis, I was mindful of the fact that this is about me. He's already made the thing and put it out there and been paid and had that experience. This is about me being able to say something to him. He doesn't need this. He doesn't want this necessarily. It doesn't matter to him. So it's what is the amount I can do that makes me feel like I took advantage of that situation, capitalized on the situation.
The real,
but not inconvenience him or make him not put him out.
The real move is that if he asks you, so you want a picture? If you go no, I'm good, thanks.
And then
you walk away.
That's a money move to be no, it's cool. I just want to have been able to talk to you. That would be super, super cool.
You have a good day.
Yeah.
You should.
He would remember that. You should
have hit him in the back of the head.
Yeah.
Just to be that guy. Yeah. Be memorable.
What are you gonna do?
He does know, he knows MMA or something.
He had a jiu-jitsu t-shirt on.
Yeah, so that probably wouldn't.
And he looks kind of built, even though he is importantly shorter than me. But
wow. I'll share. We should have a celebrity sighting story episode one day. I'll share all of mine because I have a few that are good.
I only have a handful. Did I tell you when I met David Boreanaz?
No.
So I was at this was funny. I was not starstruck because I didn't care about Angel, but or Buffy, or frankly any Joss Whedon property. List them. I don't care about any of them. So some friends and I were at this. It's closed. It's such a shame because I used to love it. This place called Greasewood Flat. It was Northern Valley. It's out in the desert. It was this old kind of wooden shack where all they served were burgers, cheeseburgers, or hot dogs, and marshmallows that you could toast on all the bonfires that were scattered around the grounds. And if you wanted to get marshmallows, they would give you a bag of marshmallows that you'd get at the grocery store, and a wire hanger to make your own little thing or perform an improvised abortion. So I was at this place. I loved it. And it was a cool place because it was everybody every weird demographic. You had bikers, you had cowboys, you had college guys like me, you had like just everybody would show up to this place. And invariably you'd be like toasting your marshmallow and some old guy would be like coming up to tell you how you're doing it wrong. It was one of those kinds of places. Anyway, so we're sitting there having Bud Light and cheeseburgers and outside, and we see this guy come in with a bunch of people. This kind of a tall guy with a black leather jacket. And my friend who saw him first, he like called attention. He's like, look at this fucking guy who thinks he's Angel. And we all laughed. And we saw him like sit down at a table, one of these outdoor like picnic tables, and sit around with us friends in there, just like hanging out. And like as the evening is going on, we're sipping our beers and looking at this guy. It's like, I think that actually is Angel. Like I think it's not just a guy who wants to be Angel. I think that's Angel. And because we were a bunch of 20-something men, we didn't even know the guy's name. Like it was all just Angel. You see Angel over there. Like I didn't know I've since learned David Boreanaz. I didn't know. So finally it was driving us so crazy. We're like, someone has to go over and ask him if he's actually Angel. And so, because I was like, I'll do it, like whatever. And like one of my friends was like, I'll come along. It's like, all right. So like we like the two of us with our Bud Lights in, the red plastic cups, the solo cups, kind of like casually meandered up to him off to the side, sidled up, waited for a little eye contact. And I did almost the same opening. I was like, I don't want to bother you. I don't want to be weird. I just had to know, you're Angel, right? Like that's how I said it. And he goes like, yeah. It's like, okay, we're leaving. We're not going to bother you. And like, we got the hell out of there. But that was when I met.
When you said that story, I just pictured two Jawas.
It was like that.
And speaking Jawa.
Yeah.
So Gary, before we move on, I have to tell you, the guy I saw, Martin Gore.
Yes.
I have practiced proven restraint because Martin Gore is top 3 in the world for me. Like if I could name 3 celebrities I'd want to meet, he would be in the top 3. Yeah. So what's that?
Of course. Like
and I didn't go like yeah, whatever. Oh, big deal. I just was like, oh, like, okay, it's so weird. I had my back to him too.
Yeah.
Already. And then Leanne pointed out, I think that's, and I was like, I don't know. I knew he lived around there where we were at. I know that for a fact. And I'm like, it could be. And then when it was proven that it was, and by the way, when he left, he made eye contact with Leanne. And like in that moment, Leanne hit his face and like he acknowledged.
There's a little like a shared knowledge.
Him and he's like, you know who I am. And then they kept going. He was with his daughters and his dog. And then they kept going. But you know what? It's like there was no staring. There was no like when he left. I didn't, it's just like I appreciated the moment and then just let it go.
Question.
Yeah.
If he wasn't there with his kids, if he was just having coffee at like your favorite coffee place alone, would you have thought of maybe saying something?
If it was just me and him?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Because Maynard, I don't know if Maynard even has kids, but if he was there with his kids, I would not have said any. Like if it's
yes, I would have done it because I know me. I would have done it on my way out. If I probably would have left earlier than I wouldn't have done it where it would have been like, hey, I want to say this, and then I go sit back down.
No, yeah,
I might have said like I would have named something very specific. I would have said, "Here is the house, fantastic song." Just want to say, and left, and he would have went.
See, and this experience, the realization that I've never met a celebrity I was starstruck by, and that I didn't handle it in a way that, I mean, it's funny and I don't care. It's not, but it's like, oh, I wish, like, it's easy now for me. Like I could have said, or I would have said, or I should have said. It makes me feel like I want to have like a plan. Someday I might meet Mark Hamill or somebody, and I'll like want to say something. And
I don't think you can though. It's like,
there's nothing you can say.
It's like Mike Tyson says, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yeah.
And then it goes out the window.
Yeah.
Now, I think we should do the YouTube thing. Like, Hey, everybody watching, just make sure once you name your top 3 celebrities that you'd like to run into in the chat.
Okay, everybody in the chat. No, this is my version of that. List who you think you would be a celebrity. Maynard isn't mine, but list a celebrity, musician, somebody living, not like, what that you think you would be most gobsmacked to meet. Like, who is the ultimate, like, oh my God, like, I can't believe I'm going to have an opportunity to say hello to this person. Who's like the most, what's yours, Jim? Like,
and tell them not to list me. I'd be embarrassed.
Not present company excluded.
Thank you.
Not Jim or me. Your number 1 and number 2 choice. Who's your number 3?
Thank you.
Celebrity you would be most like, not even necessarily your favorite, but you would be most like, I don't even know what to say with, like, most off balance.
Like all of mine, most of mine are dead.
Yeah.
And I've met 2 of mine, but one of them was at a public event.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think who's left. Like, who haven't, I don't know.
I met Carrie Fisher and I was cool, which surprises me because Carrie Fisher, I really respected, whatever you would say. Like, I thought she was just super cool. I wanted her to be my mom. Like, I thought she was, maybe without all the drug use, but like, and I was fine. I met her in a con. Like, I went up and had her sign something or something. And like, she chit chatted and I was totally fine.
I'll tell you another time, Gary, but I kind of have a cheat code for this type of story because Leanne and I, when we first started dating, through my in-law, got to go to the opening of the first Planet Hollywood.
Yes.
So, and it was VIP only. It was a closed event, a private event. So imagine I met everybody that night in one way or another, it was very strange, but I did meet, like, at the end of the night, Leanne and I were sitting there, and I'm still getting to kind of know Leanne at the time, like we're dating, and we're talking. It was like how much fun, how crazy this thing was. And then all of a sudden, there's just somebody sits at the table, but on the table, his legs are like right there, and I look up, and it was Corey Haim.
Corey Haim. So, I have to.
Yeah. And he started talking to us because there was nobody else talking to him, and that was really odd. It was very unusual. But Leanne had no idea who he was. Leanne with celebrities is like, unless it's like, Madonna or Lady Gaga, like faces she might know, but she doesn't know names of celebrities.
Yeah.
But I don't. She didn't have any idea who he was, but it was Corey Haim. I was telling Gary about the time he met Corey Haim. Yeah. Leanne touched Madonna's head. Does that count?
What?
Yeah. I bet you don't know anybody in your life that's touched Madonna.
No.
So her hand
Well, actually.
Sean Penn?
No, okay, full disclosure. This is a high likelihood of being bullshit. Okay. But it's possible. I think it's possible. Having known this guy, it's possible. So one of my managers when I worked at Subway in high school, Steve, last name redacted, was from New York, and he used to be a bouncer at different clubs there. He claimed, now again, this is not me. I don't know. He doesn't seem, I knew him for a lot of years. He doesn't seem like a guy who would just make shit up. So like I'm fully saying, like, I don't know. This is just what I was told and from someone that I generally would found believable. He claimed when he was a door guy at one of these clubs that Madonna used to go to when she was underage. To get into these clubs underage, sometimes she would perform sexual favors on the door people to get in. Now, I know my reaction.
Shut this stream down right now.
But again, knowing this guy, this wasn't a guy who just always told like crazy bullshit stories. Like he was very like, so like, I don't know. So I might have known someone who touched Madonna. I don't know, but go ahead. What did you say about head? Something like, yeah, but anyway. Go ahead.
Gary. You know what? I know they told you this when you were little. You don't have to lie to make friends. Okay. Take that back. How dare you?
I don't know that it's true. This is
Well,
something that was told to me by someone I generally had the impression was truthful. That's all. That's all I know.
Okay, I don't know if this is true or not, but I might have been at a party where I saw Barack Obama, Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, and Louis Anderson, oddly enough.
Yeah.
And they all took off their flesh and they were reptiles.
Yeah. Were you on Epstein's Island?
I'm not going to say what island it was.
Yeah.
But it did start with an E.
Started with an E, ended with
an F.
With a suicide in jail. Yeah.
Started with an E, ended with an F.
Right. Right.
But no.
I'm not saying that's a true story.
I'm not saying it's true, but I'm just saying your stream has been flagged now. And
just sharing what I
heard. might get assassinated, may not. I don't know. Just saying. Okay, enough celebrity.
Okay.
Yes. What do you want to talk about, Gary? Tell me.
What's that?
What do you want to talk about now, sir?
I want to talk about the full fungus. So just to recount for anyone who may not be a part of your social media or your Patreon or whatever, you have finished. It's kind of like there might be some tweaking, but basically, you have a cut of the full fungus. You've shared it with a very small circle.
Yes.
And you've put up its current state
on Patreon.
So if you're a patron,
so I, for all intents and purposes, big announcement. I am done with the full fungus. I finished it. I have a finished version. In fact, I thought I was so finished that I got excited and put it on for my patrons. So if you're a patron or if you become a patron, you can watch the film. After watching the film, screening it, I sat there and I thought, I need to change this. I need to change that. And they were very minor things.
Small things. Yeah.
One of the things was the volume level. I was like, I got to even this out. And I also for you know, the behind the scenes story. The rest of the people don't. So so I did that and immediately thought, why did I jump the gun? I could have waited a couple of days and done this. But it is kind of cool that people on Patreon have a view of an early.
Yeah, they get to see it.
And that version's about 90% of what the finished one is. The finished one just cleaned up a little bit. I did add a little bit more music, a little bit. I got to watch the film and really look at it kind of just as a one big piece of film.
Yes.
You know, instead of pieces like I've been doing. And I realized one thing, huge announcement. Corey Kerr loves this. So at the beginning, so I didn't use AI in the film. I did all the music and stuff like that. But there was an opening segment that is, and it's actually online. You can go look at the Enigma of the Full Fungus. Go look that up. Everybody search the Enigma of the Full Fungus, because I posted that clip online already. And it's like a little 1.5 minute documentary at the beginning of the film that talks about what the full fungus is. I used AI to do the voice on that. Like, I didn't do my voice through AI. I plugged it into a thing and I put an English accent on it and it read it for me. And I just thought it was hilarious, which it is hilarious. I'm sorry, it is.
Yeah.
It works really well. But after watching that, everyone that I trust and I believe in, I said, what do you think of that? And they're like, well, you could have probably just done that. I mean, in a funny voice, bad English accent or something. And I just thought to myself, that's the one thing that was bugging me. It was bugging me. I was like,
yeah.
So what I did yesterday is I did it, and I'm very happy with it. It came out good. It's the exact same wording. In fact, I like it the way it ends better now. But so I did replace that. And Gary, I went in, and one of the things you and I were talking about a little bit, is I went in and I normalized all of the volume. I exported the audio track out and I normalized it. So everything.
That was I've watched it once, and I told you about it after I watched it, but I also told you, and I think part of it is it's probably you can relate to this. I was just a little too close to it, where I was recognizing parts I'd seen before, changing, like then seeing parts I hadn't seen, recognizing changes I'd seen between things I'd seen earlier versions of, and like I was just a little too close, and I wanted to watch it. I enjoyed it, and it's like, okay, now I want to watch it again, a little removed, like pretending like I don't know anything about this, and I just kind of want to watch it like a movie,
so
and not sit and like study it.
A couple of other things that if you see when people see the finished version or the version I'm putting out, they're not going to know because they don't see the original the version that, unless that's on Patreon right now. But like, I thought the opening credits went a little bit fast. I mean, there's a million things I could sit here with a check mark, and I'm not like that. Once I put something out there, it's out. But I thought I would kind of like the pacing of it to be a little bit, so I fixed that. The volume I normalized throughout the film.
And that was what I was bringing up, was that was my only takeaway really in terms of notes from the first viewing, was there was some scenes where it felt a little loud, and there were other scenes where I was turning it up, that was going to be the only note.
So that I fixed. What else? I took all of your parts out. And somehow it's just like elevated it. Everyone's telling me, you know what, minus Gary, this film is Oscar.
I have to say, like, I'm not going to get specific. I recorded Dr. Hodges' lines over a long space of time.
Yeah.
And I listening to it, I could tell like my approach changed. And there were, I know the earliest Dr. Hodges line I recorded in the movie. I kind of want to re-record it. I'm not asking for that. I'm not telling you that. But when I hear it, it's like, I would do that. That's not.
You know what though, Gary? Your Dr. Hodges line, when you first appear in the film, is a later line that you recorded.
I know.
You did that later, and then it goes back.
I can tell. Yeah, the earliest line I recorded is not the first Dr. Hodges. It's like kind of in the middle of the Dr. Hodges stuff. And
it's all good. That's my favorite part.
It's just me like picking out like, oh, I'm doing a different thing there.
Dr. Hodges is very gross man.
He's so gross. And he got worse and worse as the story.
Here's the other thing too. I know, I have a confidence that I watched this film, and I know I'm pretty objective when it comes to my stuff, and I know that there's a lot of it that works. Like, I know I'm happy with it. Like, when I'm done with it, I'm like, okay, this is good. But it's just I'm in new territory, an hour and 42 minutes. And I just like, that's a big ask for people to watch. But
no more than any other movie.
No, but I've got feedback from a couple of people, you being one of them. I didn't get as much feedback yet from you, but other people that tell me like, oh, it's good, but they're, and both of those people, including you, I guess it would be three, like they liked it. Like the hour and 42 was not an issue.
No.
So that for me, like that was the rest. It's almost like, hey, you weren't bored for an hour and 40? They're like, no, it went really quick.
No.
I'm like, okay, I don't even care about the rest of your review.
No, it moves. It moves.
That was my initial worry.
I don't want to say, when I say it moves, it doesn't feel like, whoa, it's like this like Fury Road roller coaster where once you're on it, you're like zipping to the end. But every scene leads to the next. It makes sense. And it's, I think to me, a test is like of any movie is there a clear point where it's like, I could probably pause it here, come back tomorrow. Like there's not an obvious spot like that in your movie where it kind of feels like, I don't know, there was something, this is the weird way I relate to it, but so I'm a video game nerd. And there's this interview I watched with the Halo developers 15 years ago, whatever, 20 years ago, where they were talking about their philosophy to designing the game was, if we can make a little 5-minute chunk that's fun like, you know, the combat, like running around, shooting people, dodging, like all that. If you can make 5 minutes of it work, all you have to do after that is just string those 5 minutes together, you know, and like you're fine.
Yeah.
And like in a way, I think that's kind of how the full fungus plays, where it's like every part works. And it's like, even though, yes, hour 42 minutes, it's these little parts that are strung together. And it's like, if you're in for one, you might, it's kind of a page turner of a movie where it's like, sure, yeah.
I objectively will agree with that. I agree. It is, whether or not you're like, this is the worst movie I've ever seen, but I need to watch the next scene. Right. It's like chips. It's like I find when I go to just watch a part of it, I end up watching twice as much as I expect it to.
Yeah.
You know, because it does move like that. So I don't know. It is, I once I finish these little the technical fixes, it is what it is, and then people will like it, they will not like it, they will love it, they will hate it, whatever. And then I got to figure out exactly what I'm going to do with it, which is, I think, some festivals and some streaming services that I hope to get it on. It is, I will say this, it is, even though I have done feature length before, but not like this. This is like out of my comfort zone totally. So like, I'm like, give me a good old 20-minute movie now.
You're probably dying to do a short. I bet.
Yeah.
I'm gonna watch it. First of all, is the latest version uploaded? If I go to watch it again today, will it be the latest, or will it be? Is it still uploading, or what?
The new one?
Yeah, the latest.
I stopped. What was I doing? I was working on it and I stopped to jump into here. Okay. But like
you tell me when the latest version is live.
It might even be see, here's the thing. I'm trying not to do what I did the first time by like get so excited that I might want to wait a couple days and then post it, you know.
Yeah. Well, what version?
By the way,
the question is to you, what version do you want me to watch for the second viewing? Do you want me to
it'll be very soon. It'll be the 2.0 will be within a couple of days, because I'm not.
Okay, I'll wait for word from you.
It might even be sooner than that. But I did want to tell you, Gary, and everybody who's watched it, if like, I don't know if Corey's watched it or not, but the opening credits, I forgot to mention this. I also superimposed in the background the full Fungus tapes rolling.
Nice.
Very light.
Yeah.
So it add, and I'm super happy with that. Like, I was like, yes, that's what it needed. And that, and putting my own voice instead of the AI. Now, I will say this, it is not 100% AI free, but it's 100% like at the soundtrack's not AI at all. It's all instrumentation. Nothing is typed and put into an AI, but there might be one or two, like a female character, one line here, one line there. I used a voice AI, you know, but I recorded it and just put it, the file,
and had it like come out as
like there's stuff like that in it, but there's no, like, I didn't like record me a person saying, you know,
right, of course,
there's nothing like that.
Or well, so I told you this offline, but I loved it. I'm really impressed and proud of you. Like, it's very cool. And I think I don't know if you'd agree or not, it feels like by far the most ambitious thing you've done. Like, it really feels like a big swing, and not in like, it feels like a movie. Like, it feels like, you know, it feels like this, this kind of Big Lebowski, you know, Private Eye, Strange, like, you know, it has this like strange characters and strange little diversions and all these different places and all these different like twists and turns. But it does get somewhere, and the ending is super satisfying. And like, I just thought it was great. I just went a second viewing to like try and step away from it's like, it's Jim's movie, it's a movie I know something about, it's you know, a movie I've seen bits of, like, and try and just step back and see it clean in a way, which is tricky.
It's very handmade too, including the credits. All the credits are handwritten and they're messy. The movie's messy. Like, it's Like there's parts where it's like, oh, I didn't do any cleanup on that because you could tell.
Right.
Like, but it works. There's even a couple spots where I'm like, oh, I forgot to color that hand in.
Right. I noticed little parts, but with you and your aesthetic, like I just know like this is sort of intentional. Like,
right.
you know,
if my stuff was super clean and super tight and like
yeah,
you know, pristine all the time, and then that happened, you'd be like, oh, but
right.
since it's a style, it kind of works.
Well, and what's funny to me is, you know, I've never watched you work, but I am curious, like where you decide that line is sometimes, where it's like, I know I didn't do this part, like I didn't color this part or something.
Yeah,
but like that's now because you wouldn't stop short of like way short of that. You wouldn't be like, I don't need to color any of the characters in this. Like, I mean, but sometimes it feels like it's like my eye zeroes in on it just because I've seen your work long enough where I see it. It's like, I'm just kidding. I'm sure there's no rational answer to this, but like this thing right here, why didn't you, like, where did you decide, like, I'm going to leave that, you know, like it's kind of interesting to me.
I guess it's because I look at the scene and I go, does it work? And if it works, I'm like, well, it works. Why am I going to fix?
Why am I doing more? Yeah.
Yeah. The car runs great. It's going to get me to Phoenix. Why do I care if the back tail light is loose or something?
Why fix the dent?
Yeah. You know, if it's a tire, then I'll fix it.
I'm talking about my car right now.
I'm talking about your car.
Why fix the crack in the windshield?
You know, the blood stains on the back seat are going to come out eventually.
Yeah.
So as long as I don't get stopped by the cops. And I'm talking about your car again.
Well, you know, it's funny. I'm especially going to be thinking about this. It's interesting, like you're wrapping up just when I'm kind of starting, like my next leg. But I think it's good, and this is what's nice about like I'm going to say the Crestline community, like our extended group of creative friends. At any given time, someone's finishing something, someone's starting something, and someone is in like the deep, dark middle of some journey. And I think it's good, like, to see whatever part you're in, to see like someone else in that other part. Like, I especially like, I'm not quite there yet. I said this a little bit when I opened up. I'm not feeling any like exhaustion or trepidation yet, of course, because I'm only on page 1. But I am trying deliberately to not think about the fact that I will be drawing pretty much every chance I get.
Yeah.
For the next 58 weeks, something like that. Yeah. And that's going to get old. It's nice to see, like, well, you know, you did 15 months and you're finishing like there, and there'll always be something like that where it's like, there's a time I'm sure you felt like this feels like it'll never get done.
Yeah.
But here it is.
Dylan has a good question that will lead me to something I wanted to ask you about your project.
Okay. Do you think you've grown in your animation ability and art ability in general, Jim?
Yeah, I think so. But I mean, there's like a comfort zone, and to me, there's nothing wrong with a comfort zone. I mean, you've worked really hard to get to be comfortable.
Right.
So, but what it is, a comfort zone is you just, at least me, I don't want to say you get bored with it, but you want something new. You just want new. And so this was something new. This was new territory. And I thought, oh my God, it doesn't mean that you can't go back. Like I would love to do some more shorter projects in the future. Right. But it was something new, and it's something I just had wanted to do, you know, for a long time. But I realized what I've learned from this project. One is I realized, looking back, I've learned this before, and it still stands. I could have been a little less Jim, a little bit more Corey. I could have planned out a little bit more, because
like written script.
Yeah, it would have saved me. Writing a script, yeah, I guess so. I could have done that. It would have been a different film. And you know what? Who knows? Maybe it would have been a better film, but it would have been a different.
It would be different.
It would be different. I don't know if better or worse, but So that's one thing. I've learned that I have to have, this is where you come in. Learn I have to have the patience of Gary, because like posting the the version that I have out now, although I could have said, hey, this is a work in, and actually I did say
Yeah.
this is an in-work version still.
This is not final.
But
Yeah.
like Gary Hodges just wouldn't have posted anything.
No, but you know what? If this makes you feel any better, I relate to it hard. And this is a thing that I've had to learn to parent myself with, because I totally related to it. I totally understood. There's something about when you get something that's could be done, like this, we could call this done.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's it's so attractive, this idea of just like, and especially you've been working in isolation, you've been working for so long, it would like, you kind of want to like run to that last leg of the race, like really like push, like, and I've like, so for example, I mentioned like I draw my own holiday card every year. There is always a point where I say that could be done. Maybe I'll just submit the print order. And I force myself, like, no, you're going to sit on it for 3 days. Because you know yourself, Gary, tomorrow you're going to wake up and look at it and be like, I don't love this part. I want to tweak it. And if you've submitted it to the printer, like it's over. I think something about, see, you have the luxury of being a digital artist, like in terms of the medium is digital. Like you can always do a tweak and re-upload it, and no one's the wiser. I am a print, like a physical media artist, where I need to interrupt that urge, which I totally understand. And every time I have to overrule it, every time I finish the comic, I think like, maybe I should just submit it. And I always have to force myself, no, get a proof, get a physical proof. Like make yourself sit on it for a week until the proof shows up, and then read it, because you're going to see things. And so if I didn't do that to myself, I'd be in your boat all the time, which is why I don't begrudge you at all. I totally understand the tendency. There's this eagerness of like, you see, like I finished this thing, take a look. And
I thought I was like that. The version that I posted for Patreon, I actually thought I was done. I thought I'm done. Like, this is it. Because I had watched it, but never really sat back and then like, I'm going to watch this. And I probably should set a rule. That would help me. I should set a rule that says I'm not allowed to post it until I sat and actually watched the whole thing again, because I won't say it's a punishment, but it shows a commitment. Like, okay, this is really it. I'm gonna try and watch it.
When I finish, I think this is the final draft of a script, I at least throw it in a drawer, metaphorically. It's in a folder on its top for a week before I do anything. And then I reread it after a week. When I finish drawing the last page of a DvsM, it's the same thing. I walk away from it and take a week off. I refuse to even look at pages. Like I'm going to completely for a week detox. Then I'm going to go back and go through and read it and see what I think. Because I've just found through long experience, like I will get ahead of myself, and in my enthusiasm, my zeal for getting it out, like I'll just,
So the link that I have for patrons, by the way, if you go to Jim Lujan on Patreon or patreon.com/Jim Lujan. If you're any of my patrons, any level can watch the film. The beauty of that is I might render a version of it, and then because the version I have up there is password protected, and all I have to do is replace it, and no one would be no one would be the wiser. So I might do that. I might render a version tonight, the fixed version, and replace the versions because they don't know. Then when they go there and they log in to watch it, it's just the newer version. But officially putting it out, like for festivals and stuff, I am gonna sit and watch it and wait. Yeah, that sounds like more reasonable to give
There
myself.
will be, see,
Yeah.
so I was just talking about the advantage of digital versus physical, where it's easier for you, just like it's not the end of the world if there's a version out there you don't love.
Yeah.
I would think the reverse of that is, and you've done this many, many, many times before with all your previous animation. At some point, you have to decide, pencils down, that's it.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not going to monkey with this anymore. Probably it'll be when you move on to the next thing. I'm assuming.
It's Gary. It's the scope of this that throws it off.
Yeah.
Those 20-minute movies that I was doing before, I've never run into this before. Like, oh man, it's because I was able. All you got to do is go back 5 minutes. Oh, it's like it's a smaller, easier contained thing. Even though 20 minutes is still long, it's way more manageable. And I know I'm done. Like with 20 minutes, I'm like, I know this film's done. It's done. Like I don't have to go back. I'm going to watch it 5 times. When you have an hour and 42 minutes, you're quadrupling that, I don't know
if my math. It's a lot to I would think. I mean, even for me, and it's not my baby, it's a hard thing to watch objectively.
So I'll give you guys an example exactly. This hasn't happened, knock on wood, but I could watch the film and be like, oh, this is great. And I'm, 41 minutes into the film. Yeah. Oh, the audio didn't render for this 5 seconds. Like, stuff like that. 20 minutes. 10 minutes, 20 minutes. You can catch that a lot easier.
Right. It's hard to rewatch an hour and 40 minutes.
It's an hour and 42 minutes. You're like, oh, it's like a behemoth. You gotta.
Well, and how many times are you going to rewatch it before you put it out? I mean, like that adds up.
Yeah,
like,
I've seen
all beginning to end. How many times have you watched it?
I've seen all the scenes like hundreds of times, and there's
but beginning to end,
I know work. Like this is great. It's still funny every time. But like sitting down and watching the whole movie, I've only done that like twice.
Right. And that's, to me, that's the problem, because it's like, I can only relate to it as, I used to freelance write, and when you're proofreading, it's tough to reread something that's like, 3 or 4 pages, starts to get long, because you start reading what you think you wrote and not what's actually there. And it's hard to, again, like focus. It's like, I'm going to read every word of this 4-page thing I wrote. Like you end up kind of like skimming in a way. I would think watching a movie that you made is sort of the same, where like you've watched all the scenes. So
when you're writing your books, how often do you sit there and get, okay, I'm on page 49. I'm going to go back and read it from the beginning now.
When I feel like, every time I feel like I have a finished draft, it triggers a reread. So like a finished version, so if I whenever I write, so like the first time I'm writing a draft, I'm not going to get beginning to end in one pass. Like I'll write, 4 pages, 5, whatever. I don't know, make up a number, 5 pages, walk away. A day or 2 later, come back, write a few more pages. Like I'll keep on building. But as soon as I'm done and I can save, like, this is draft 1, date, blah, 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 the next time, before I go and sit down to write again, it begins with printing it out and reading it beginning to end. So like I'm always, but that's not as big not as big of an ask as watching an hour and 42 movie.
I know.
Like, I mean, the longest it'll take me to read a script is, I don't know, an hour, like maybe, and so it's easy for me to say like, okay, I gotta read the latest draft today before I do any more writing.
Yeah. And so the part what I was saying, a little bit more Corey, a little less Jim, I could, if I did write a regular script, I think it would have been, well, I know this is covered, and I covered this point, and I covered this point, and it's all there. It's all there on paper.
Right.
Whereas the way I did it, it was almost like, hey, what feels good?
Right. Right.
What feels good now?
Which is how you do shorts.
Yes, exactly. But even when I do my shorts like that, I have those points in my mind. Like it's not like I just like oh, I forgot to put a conflict in this, you know, or I forgot to put a resolution. Like they're all there. They're just not on paper.
Right.
And even that's not true, because even when I do like a 20-minute film, I write out bullet points, you know, this happens,
Yeah.
this happens.
Like you basically have an outline.
Yeah, yeah, and this same thing with this. I wrote bullet points of this and everything. It's
And
just
it didn't drift that much from, obviously, now I was there early. I remember that little coffee/art shop we went to.
yeah.
You were walking me through your I think
Mhm.
it was one of the earliest concepts of like, I
Yeah.
think it'll be like this. And
Yeah.
that was pretty different. I mean, the basic bones were there, but it was pretty different. But once you decided, like, you decided to start recording and drawing and animating, and you talked through, like, this is what happens, that's really close to what you ended up with.
Yeah, you know,
had
what
pretty
what
early
happened,
on.
Gary, is the very first version that we talked about in that coffee shop in Phoenix, is that version. As I started creating it, I was like, oh no, I can't do this version. This version is like the version now, when people watch it, it has a million different things in it, a million different scenes and little things. And that one had 4 billion.
Yeah.
It was way. And so the version now is actually simplified. It's a simplified version. And even so, it's still chaotic.
Well, and also I remember, and maybe it was just the way it was presented to me, but I remember the original concept. I thought it was way more dramatic and dark. Like, to me, it had a heavier, like, no, it wasn't like, you know,
no,
like
but yeah,
or 7 or something, but it wasn't as, like I said, this one has that kind of, what is I'm blanking on the
Je ne
movie.
sais quoi?
No, the movie that we've talked about, the Elliot Gould Private Eye movie.
Oh, The Long Goodbye.
The Long Goodbye. It has that Long Goodbye, or Big Lebowski is sort of, there is a silliness throughout, you know, that I'm silly might not, there's a levity or a lightness, even though sometimes it's dark and sometimes it's emotional or sometimes it's whatever. Like it's mostly, I don't love this word, but it's quirky, you know, where the original version you described to me didn't have a quirk factor. It had this kind of darker noirish kind of thing. Yeah. So
one thing about my film I can say is, even though it's really, really long, at least it's super boring. So
it's not just long, it's tedious.
I should have worn my full fungus hat. Do I have a full fungus?
You should have. Yeah.
Next time. Well, when it's officially released, I will. Until that day, I do not wear the hat. That is the rule.
Yeah. No, I mean, a hat is part of my streaming uniform, and I probably do need a DvsM hat, but that feels, I don't know. Like, I don't know what that looks like. I need to think about.
My plan for this movie is to play it at festivals alongside really, really terrible movies.
Yes.
And then it will elevate this movie to be Citizen Kane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go to your local animated film class at a high school, preferably. Maybe a charter school. And invite the kids to submit shorts for the film festival. And like, I think you'll get a good, like, it'll set an expectation, and then you'll come in, and
it's just like the secret to weight loss. You just hang out with people that are way bigger than you.
That's right.
And then you're like, oh my God, you're so svelte.
It's like planning a live act. It's like, get an opener who's not very good. You don't want to be outshined by the opener.
There you go. So before we go, two things. One is Dylan had mentioned the Art of the Full Fungus book.
Yes, and Dee, I think.
And Dee did that. Okay. I totally want to put a book out, and I'm adding the pressure to Paul Pate, who promised to help me. So I plan to do that. I plan to maybe put some making of artwork in there, and some of the early thumbnails and you know, bullet points that I wrote out, like just that type of stuff. And then have a huge section of character, like backstories, like little backstories, just a
Excellent.
bunch of stuff like that. I definitely want to do that. That's one. And then two is where can everybody see? Hopefully, you'll be able to see it eventually on a streaming service,
Mhm.
which would be great, and not just a limited one, like a bunch of streaming services. Hopefully, that's one plan for sure. Some kind of festivals. If anybody has any particular festivals that would take an animated feature,
Mhm.
just shoot me a note. Send me an email. Let me know. I'll look it up.
And I'll look for Phoenix area. I don't know.
And then I am pandering to everybody out there that if they do want to see it, again, just join my Patreon. You can join for a month and then ghost me. And but it's
Now,
it is on Patreon.
my recollection is that it will not, at least in the near future, be on YouTube because of these other options you're going to be looking at.
It was that's always been the plan.
So usually your stuff goes on it.
I usually throw, and even with Animation Plus, the deal I have with them, I can put stuff on, like I could put this on YouTube and then.
But didn't that interfere with the film festival thing or something? I thought I remember there was
that's why I'm not putting it, because I want to submit it to film festivals.
Yes.
Eventually, one day, I'm sure we'll end up on YouTube.
Someday.
Just for free.
Someday it'll be on YouTube, but
but that's probably when at my museum they're going to build for me. It'll be on streaming.
Or your memorial, the wake, maybe. I don't know.
Hey, easy there. Let's not get into your car back seat.
Hypothetically,
look. Just because you met Jodi Arias doesn't mean you have to be Jodi Arias. Okay.
I never, for the record, just if you're not watching any other part of this today, I don't know for sure Madonna was blowing doormen in New York, and I just threw that in for you. And I've never met Jodi Arias.
Can we combine those two stories and say that Jodi Arias
was a doorman in New York? And
maybe you were the doorman in New York. Who knows?
Who knows?
But yeah, I'm very excited. Again, I'm very happy with the film. Like I'm excited.
You should be.
I'm just my fungus gas tank is now. You know what? I never got sick of working on the film. I can say that.
That's great.
I never, from the first day to the last, I never got sick from working for the film. The hardest thing for the film has always been the technical side. 100%. It's the file, like, oh, the file is too loud here, or it's not loud. Those type of things. It's Final Cut Pro. Couldn't get it to export. I was having such a problem for it to export.
That's so aggravating.
Like it's the technical side. That's what was just knocking me out. But sitting down to draw, record, working, thank you to all the people that did the voices on it. Like all of that was heaven. It was great. I had such a good time working on it.
It was fun. It was fun to participate, and I'm happy to have been a small part of it. Now I do have a question.
Thank you, Gary. You were like 4 times a small part in it.
Well,
let's not mention your waiter. Let's not mention the waiter, Gary.
I love the waiter.
Can't wait to do the backstory and reveal their names and stuff like that. That's going to be such fun. Can't wait to do that.
So now you're not going to be held to this, but I'm just curious, your prediction. We've talked about this lots of times before. You finish a project, the best thing would be to spend some time promoting the project, giving it its opportunity in the sun. Like you've talked about film festivals, you've talked about streaming services. But we've also, you and I have experienced many times, once a thing is out and we have the best of intentions to try and push it, we very quickly fall back into the creative thing where it's like we're thinking about the next project.
Oh, yeah.
How long? Now, you can make a prediction, not aspirational. You can do both, actually. How long would you like to spend peddling the full fungus? How long do you think you'll actually spend peddling the full fungus before you move on to your next thing?
That is a Hall of Fame great question, Gary. Yeah. And I'm going to give it a Hall of Fame.
Well, that we're good. I'm going to just sign off now since you're supposed to walk out once you've peed.
If you were a doorman.
So I was the doorman. And young Madonna. What was her name? Was something Sassone or
Ciccone.
Ciccone? Yeah, it was.
Madonna.
He really wants to get in.
Ciccone.
She's 20 and it's a 21 and up club.
I believe that, by the way.
And
okay,
she really wants to dance.
Back. Let's just get into the groove, okay?
Yes, let's refocus.
Okay. Ideally, and it'll be fun for future Jim to come back and watch this episode, see if we made this happen. Bye, Dv. I would prefer. Well, right now I'm safe because I'm technically trying to get the file.
You're still in it.
Yeah,
you're still in it. But at the end is in sight.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so ideally, I'd like to submit this to festivals and have a plan to put this on streaming around like January or so. That's like another like 3 months. So as I'm doing that, submitting it, and okay, it's submitted and it's scheduled to be on. There'll be like a 1 month window in there, like in December or so.
Yeah.
And that would be when I would ideally oh, here's what my next project's going to be.
That's when it'll start creeping in.
Yeah, no, I'm going to I planned like November, it'll start creeping in.
Yeah.
And then start like just tinkering away in December, and then have probably a new project, probably like April or March. Which one comes first, March or April?
March comes first.
Okay, March first.
Last I checked. Yeah.
Like around March, have a project done, like a new short done. That would be ideal. Like, because then the full Fungus would be accepted or denied in some festivals, I would know, or it might already be streaming, Yeah. But that's around my patience level. My vacation level, I want to around December start dipping my toe back in and stuff. Now, I didn't mention this too. There's also with my friend Nisam, we always have some kind of music projects in the background.
Yeah.
So that will probably ramp up like the end of October, I would say, probably like soon. So that's usually what I fall back on when I'm not doing the films is I do the music stuff because I love that just as much. So that would be the timeline. Like when's the next after Full Fungus Jim Lujan cartoon coming out? Yeah. I would say ideally would be. We said that March comes first, right? Yeah, March.
March comes first.
You know who I don't ask that? I don't ask Corey about months, or because he gets mixed up. So he has months dyslexia.
So you're thinking next. This is crazy to even be talking about, but you think next project would be like spring, summer?
Be a 4-hour movie.
4 hours. You gotta hit the. I mean, you couldn't come up with 18 more minutes. You couldn't have hit 2 hours. What's the matter with you?
Yeah, I could have, but
is there a director's cut? Is there I don't remember seeing much left on the.
There actually is. There's a whole segment of, and this is no spoiler alert, or not a spoiler, but there's a whole section that's not in the film where they go to Koviak's mansion and they talk with Koviak.
Oh, that's right. And I saw
that's done. And I'll put that out by itself, but I'm not going to do a director's cut, I don't think.
And I do know, and this is fine. I'm not being one of those actors that was like, they cut my part, whatever. I know there were more waiter lines. I remember a lot of waiter lines. Yeah, because he said something about Arnold Palmer's like a half dozen times. Like there was a lot. I think your original vision. This is just what I was gleaning from what you were asking me to do. That he was going to be constantly popping in. It's like, how are those Arnold Palmers going? How are they going? Yeah. You need another one? Anyone need their Arnold Palmer topped off? Like there was a lot of this idiot interrupting, and that wasn't in there. So.
Yeah. Well, I only put you in this film because your father's financing it.
Yeah.
So go tell Daddy thank you.
Thank you. Wow. Good old Jeff Epstein.
Yeah. Rest in peace, King.
Rest in peace, King.
That's beautiful.
Good old.
All right. Well, I think we're good. I'm good if you're good. And how about I do this? How about I relinquish control back to you for your show?
Okay.
Before I do that, I thanked everybody that had done a voice for me in this film and people that follow my stuff. Thank you so much. By the way, my love language is words. Absolutely. So whenever somebody says something nice or they like the film, like the 2 people that told me they liked it, I'm like, okay, done. It's a success.
That's it. There you go. Yeah.
Thank you for that. And then I also want to say thank you, Gary, because just lending an ear, and where you're going next with your blank page and where you're going to be creating is going to continue to inspire me and others.
Well,
It truly is. It makes a difference. So, and it made a difference with this project. So I just want to tell you, thank you. And thank you for giving me a platform and such. So appreciate it.
Once I get page 1 to a certain point, I'll share the first page with you.
Here's a little nugget for the audience. Gary Hodges on my cell phone is listed as Dr. Hodges.
That's
so
right.
when I get a call from it says, call from Dr. Hodges.
Right.
And
I don't mind the doctor. I mean, it's a little worse once people see the movie and they see who Dr. Hodges is. But
you should start calling yourself that at work. Why not?
Why not?
Just
Why not?
Dr. Hodges, Esquire.
Who cares?
All right. But thank you, Gary.
Of course. Thank you.
All right.
Congratulations again.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Oh, and by the way, I love you. Yeah, there we go.
That's not creepy at all.
Not at all? Yeah.
Not at all. Just don't go look at my mole.
Yeah. Got to Google it. Got to Google it and make sure I'm talking to the Jim Lujan. Okay. Let's see here. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to cover today. Talk about drawing page 1. Page 2. So let me. Where are we going to be next time we talk? Let me see here. Oh, I do remember there's another thing I wanted to bring up as well. Okay, so next time we talk, next time I stream, I will have started page 3. 2 and 3 are going to be interesting because it'll be the first time I'm drawing some of these characters we're going to watch go on a journey in this story. And that's, as I mentioned at the outset of this video, that is in a way the first time I'm going to see them myself, because I have an idea what I want them to look like, but then I'll sit and draw it until I think that looks cool. And it's like, all right, draw it like that for the rest of this book. So that'll be interesting. I'm feeling good, but I don't think I'll be free of jitters. Like, oh my God, I'm drawing new DvsM jitters for, actually, I can tell you, the point where the jitters subside. Well, there's another thing I want to bring up before we go. Okay, is once I've drawn everything, like character-wise, basically, for the first time. There's always a little bit of anxiety and trepidation until like I've finally settled on this is what this character is going to look like. And that will be basically, it's a little fuzzy. Page 6 or at latest page 9, all the major characters have appeared. The reason it's fuzzy is there's a character you don't get a real clear look at until page 9. So therefore, and I don't remember where 9 puts me. I think it's, I don't know, late November, sometime December, I will have gotten that far. And because I can't do calendar math in my head right now. At that point, I think I'll be free of the jitters. Because then I will have drawn, like now it's just drawing the stuff over and over and over again, which is a different kind of pressure, but doable. So right now, feeling good, but jitters. Jitters will continue at least for the next month or 6 weeks or 8 weeks, probably. And then I'll finally be like, all right, now I'm in it. Last things before we go. Next time, 2 weeks from today, I'm going to do an AMA, and Ask Me Anything. There's a link in the description of this video, SurveyMonkey link. You can submit anything you want. Ask me anything about DvsM, about me, about my day job, about whatever. Like whatever you want, just to throw at me and see how I feel, you can do it. You can do it by default. All questions I get, I'm going to treat as anonymously submitted. If you want your name attached, if you want credit for a question, I believe I put a field in the SurveyMonkey where you can enter your name. And then I'll know that these questions are from you. Otherwise, I won't know. Otherwise, I'm not going to worry about who they're from. They're just going to be from people. But just know, if you don't do that, even if I can tell who it's from, it's going to be anonymous. So I encourage you, check the link below. Any questions you want to ask. You can use the link over and over. If you do some today, you think of more in a few days or in a week or whatever, just go back to it and submit again, whatever. I wanted to thank Scott Cirkland. I ordered some of these way cool wax pack trading cards with gum, I'm told. I can't really feel it, but I'm told there's gum in there. These are, if you're not familiar with what he's doing, you should be, by the way. You should be following him on YouTube. He is recreating sort of what I would describe as beloved Gen X memories from childhood. Things that never existed, but should have or could have, or maybe shouldn't have, but it's fun to make anyway, exist. So he, like, there were never Clash of the Titans collectible trading cards, wax packs. He made some. He has some, let's see here, Star Wars kind of Wonder Bread things here. He's got some sort of Burger King. Like, I picked up a few. Well, I picked up one and he included a bunch of fun extras, which I appreciate. There's a couple more I might circle back for. I still have my eye on a Blade Runner wax pack. So thank you, Scott. They're very cool. I encourage everyone who's into this sort of thing, who might be into this sort of thing, go and support him. If you go to his YouTube or his website, it'll funnel you to his shop. He also has an Etsy shop. You can find him a couple different places. Go order something. Okay, SurveyMonkey, Scott, shout out. Talked about the full fungus. Told the tool story. Talked about drawing. I think that's everything. And if it's not, I'll catch up next time. Thanks for coming by. A lot of people live today. Maybe later on Sunday is good, or maybe people are just interested because it was beginning drawing. Next time will be just pre-Halloween. I don't know if I'm doing anything for Halloween this year, but that's fine because I'm drawing a book. I got a lot of drawing to do. I have to draw. I can at least tell you the page count. 58 pages. So there we go. In theory, not necessarily in practice, but in theory, I will be done drawing DvsM 2001 about 57 or 58 weeks from today. So you can see how the timeline matches out. It's like getting it out and available and purchasable by the end of next year. That's the plan. These take a while. They're ambitious books. And I put a lot of TLC into every part of it, including the drawing. So there's no rushing this process. In fact, it's already rushed. Like, believe it or not, 58 weeks is rushing. Like, because no page is exactly what it could be if I had unlimited time. But it gets it out in what I find is a reasonable rate, which is a new book about every other year. So that's the goal. And I think I should be able to hit it this time. All right. I got to get back to work. So thanks. Yeah, 50. It is. As a matter of fact, and this is, Jeremy, you helped me remember the last thing I wanted to bring up. Okay. So I've updated inventory on my Etsy shop. All the numbers of what's available went down because I don't sell things exclusively through the Etsy shop. I go to occasional, like I went to that ASCAF pop-up a few weeks ago. I sell things privately. Like whatever, I sell stuff to comic book shops. Like, so my sales aren't 100% Etsy. So periodically I've sold a bunch of stuff and I need to go back to Etsy to update my inventory to make sure it's reflecting books I actually have right here in boxes. So I did that. Numbers are fairly low. I think the most I have of any of the books is like in the teens. My intention right now, the reason I'm bringing this up, my intention right now is to completely sell out. Not sell DvsM to Amazon. I mean, sell through, like be left with no books. I don't know. My sales ebb and flow. So I can't tell you when that is. All I know is that I have teens of issues left and sometimes less. I think there might even be a few where I have less than 10. I have a memory of at least one of them is less than 10. That could last me a month, could last me 3 months. Like it could last me through the rest of the year. I don't know, but like we're getting low. My intention is to sell everything so I have 000 of all 3 books. The reason I'm doing that is because when I reprint, for various reasons, and I'll talk about this more when I do it, I'm going to be moving DvsM to perfect bound. What is perfect bound? Okay. Saddle stitched is like a floppy, where it's a long sheet folded with staples. We all know what that looks like. Perfect bound is like this, with the square binding. This is Captain America Truth, which is really good. All DvsMs are going to be that from now on. We'll talk about it more in the future. The point now is, if you want saddle stitch original OG versions of DvsM, you should get them now. Quantities are low, and I'm never going to redo them. Okay. Once these sell out and I reorder, going forward, it's all going to be perfect bound from now on. We'll talk about that more when that order happens and they're being stocked at some point. I don't know when that will be. Okay. If you're fence sitting, if you want floppies of DvsM, if you want stocking stuffers, if you want to share them with someone you think would like DvsM and likes comics, whatever the thing is, like now is probably the time. Okay. Because I don't know when I'm going to sell out. It could be sooner than I expect. And then that's it. And as I've talked about in the past, I self-fund all my printing. I don't do Kickstarters. Someday I'll do a Kickstarter for when we're talking about trades, where I'm combining books into something bigger. But when it comes to the individuals, I self-fund. Because I'm self-funding, I need to scrape together several $100s to do a print run, okay? And I'm a modestly paid government employee. That's requires some planning, and I usually drag my feet on it because it's hundreds of dollars. And that's why sometimes DvsM is sold out for weeks or months, okay? Which means if you're thinking about getting DvsM and you don't move now and it sells out, now you're waiting until I do the new perfect bound versions, okay? And that, who knows when that will be? I don't know. If I don't know, you certainly don't know. It could be a while. So, certainly next year, I would think. Okay, there's no way, especially with holidays coming up, I'm not doing a print order before the end of the year. So I would say spring. So basically, like it could be months where DvsM is just not available. Maybe you don't care. Maybe you already have your copies. Maybe you're fine. Cool. I'm talking to the few people who watch this who are like, I don't know. I haven't gotten it yet. Or I have one, I got to get the others. Or I think I'm one behind, or whatever the thing is. Now's the time. If you don't want to go through the Etsy shop, if you know me, like if you're local or something, or you know you're going to see me or whatever, or you want to dodge Etsy listing fees or whatever and just approach me directly, whatever, do that. But like, I'm just telling you, quantities are low. All right, that's it. I think that's all I have for today. I I will see you in about a week. I'll be starting page 3. And I'm hoping I'm still feeling good about how it's going. Because that would be way too early to start feeling discouraged. All right. Thank you all. Have a great next couple weeks. And make sure you're ready to vote. Don't get me started on that. Maybe throw that in the QA. I don't know. Ask me anything. All right. Ask me anything, guys. Fill out questions. Talk to you later. Bye. Bye.